Steven, it's a new year, it's 2022, and I've got a big, fat, juicy wish that it's going to be a year full of fulfillment here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. What do you think?
I've got a big old sauce-drenched wish myself, just slapped on my plate here in front of me, and I'm going to dig in to a whole nother year of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
It's going to be a big year full of winding down our rewatch of Community and moving on to whatever comes next for us, and to be a part of it with us. There's so many ways to show your support.
We've got a big old warm pool here for you. Come on and slip on your skivvies and slide down the ladder and dive in. How can they get in this pool, Zach?
If you put your toe in the water and it feels fine and you want to get waist deep, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. It's the way to support this show and to help us move it forward as we move into the future. It's also the way to get more of us every week with our live pre-show every week, You Can't Dis a Pre-Show, and all kinds of Patreon exclusive content coming all the time, Steven.
We'd love for you to support us on Patreon, but you can also hang out with us free of charge over on Twitter at You Can't Dis a Pod. We are also on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast, and we're on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Also, if you would like to be a part of the show every week, you can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. To be a part of next week's podcast, write us in your trivia, your favorite funny moment, and your episode MVP for next week's episode of Community, and we'll read it out loud on the show.
If you like what we do here, leave a review wherever you leave reviews about podcasts.
Yeah, maybe like the Sharper Image product review site. Leave us a review there.
There's like a box full of sticky notes at my post office. Write a review and leave it there.
I hope you guys are jumping on board with us and you're ready to traverse 2022 with me and Steven. What do you say? Let's rip our way into another episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Cannonball!
I'll put like a big splash.
Yeah!
Way to go. That's great. He just got away.
Hey, you can't just say he's gone. You owe us an ending.
I owe you nothing. I am a dungeon master. I create a boundless world and I bind it by rules. Too heavy for a bridge? It breaks. Get hit? Take damage. Spend an hour outside someone's front door fighting over who gets to kill him? He leaves through the back. He's out there somewhere. You might find him if you get your crap together.
I attempt to begin the podcast with small talk. Nice
Failed.
dice rolling noise. Failed.
Yeah.
I attempt to start the podcast with awkward silence.
You succeed. I attempt to, yeah.
You had to break it. I was going to let that go as long
You're
as
just going to let it
would
keep
go.
going. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
That
You win the
made
day.
me really happy. That was really fun.
That was good.
I spend so much of this podcast editing out the silence, and I'm just going to let people sit in that one.
Yeah.
That could have gone so much
It
longer.
could have. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Are you uncomfortable with silence? Do you feel the need to fill silence?
I actually really like awkward silence. It's fun for me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. I'm so glad you've made it for another week. We're actually here. We're actually going to do the show, I promise. Stop. I'm really glad that you're here. This is fun. Excited to do the show. Hi, I'm Zachary, the adequately endowed.
Hi. I'm, what was my name?
I don't
Hilt
remember.
Rubber.
Oh, yeah. Rub that hilt. Every night I rub my hilt and hope that, man.
You know, Zach, I've been watching a lot of
rubbing jokes in this episode.
Forged in Fire.
Is this
that
true?
the show?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I like it. They like make.
You're the one that's been
Weapons.
watching it. Is that the show?
I think so. I found some Forged in Fire hot sauce at like
Nice.
a Ross,
You're
and
like,
I
"I'm
bought
buying
some.
that."
Yeah.
Was
I
that
haven't
when you
tried
were
it yet.
in town that you went to a Ross, or you hitting up
No,
to Chicago?
there's one up here in the Chi.
Is it a little scary in the Ross Dress for Less in Chicago?
No, I love Ross Dress for Less.
Really?
There's a
That's
Ross
great.
downtown that has like 3 floors. It's incredible.
That's awesome. Whoa.
I love Ross.
He is my favorite friend.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. You can't disappoint a podcast. I feel a lot better this week, so I'm not going to biff all the things that we usually do at the beginning of the show like I did last week. We were like 30 minutes into it, and we remembered that we need to shout out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Those people are Danny M. Lugo, Taylor Ace, Planeswalker Prez, your mom, Mary Baker Budisa, and Brian Thurman. We love all those people very much. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to the 2 new $5 patrons that we acquired this week. Those are our good friend, our new friend Artie, who I sure did bully into giving us a couple bucks. Not 10, not enough to get the weekly shout out, Artie. You're gonna have to bump it up for that. You can bump it. Come on. Come on. What?
Come on.
$5 more a month. Come on. You gotta bump it.
Come on, Artie.
So
you
shout
can
out
be
to
you
Artie,
can be
and
late on
I'm
rent.
looking up to see who our other new one is. Christine. Shout out to Christine. I don't know who you are, and thanks for supporting us.
Yeah, give us a hello on Twitter, Christine.
Twitter.com/
Yeah.
I am a patron of the podcast. You can't disappoint a podcast.
Yeah, join our
.html.
spaces. Should we do a Twitter Spaces? I don't understand what they are. I always run
I
from
don't
them
either.
when they pop up.
Sometimes I click on them, then like I click on them, and then I'm like, am I listening to it? Am I participating in
Can they
it?
hear me?
Am I in it? Can they see me?
Well, all the ones on anime Twitter are like 18 plus nighttime talk chat.
It's not for kids.
It's not for kids. Zach.
Hi.
Welcome, patrons. Welcome,
Thanks.
Zach.
We also
I bet
gotta
you're
give a
wondering
shout
why
out.
I've gathered you here today.
Well, we've got to give another shout out too. This will also be an 18 plus no kids experience because I've got nothing but daddy on my mind. Our
Heyo.
community Papa at Communities on Twitter. We love those people. We love what they do, and I love the way they make me feel.
It's getting close to my birthday, Dad, and I know you told me...
Never gotten me anything before.
Yeah, you told me that I'm not your son and you're not going to remember my birthday or
And
even
you are
write
a
it down.
full-grown man now.
It'd be
Really
great if I
hoping for
could...
that pony this year.
If Papa would come to school on my birthday with me and tell everyone that he is real and that I wasn't made in a test
And
tube
that they
because they've
should
never
stop
seen an
being
adult
so
male
mean to
figure
you
in my
about it.
life. Yeah. I do have a dad, I promise.
He loves me so much.
Yeah. He
Cue
said
Mac's mom from It's Always Sunny being like, I don't give a shit.
I
But
don't
thanks,
care for
communities.
Job.
We love you, even though you don't love us back. That's
Yeah.
okay.
He at least like
That's okay. 2
acknowledges
years of
our
unrequited
existence.
love, it'll do it to you.
Yeah, I've waited longer. This
Welcome
I
to the
can
show.
hold a grudge.
How are you doing, Steven? How are you this week? It's good to see you. What's going on in
to
your
see you.
sphere?
I'm still recovering in the foot game, All my OnlyFans followers are gonna have to wait a couple more days for a fresh foot pick.
I feel like you've been dealing with piggy trouble for like 6 months now.
it truly has been almost 2 months now that since I've taught a
It's
lesson.
been 2 months, is that what you said?
Yeah.
That honestly thought it had been a little bit longer. But that's
Feels
a pretty
like
long
it.
time. Are you
Yeah.
bored? Do you get bored? Are you
I mean,
like, this
I'm
is
still
nice?
working, but I definitely miss dancing and
Sure.
miss teaching.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you think when you get back at it that you're going to be struggling in more ways than just your feet after not doing it for so long? Like do you think you'll be winded?
Maybe because I haven't been like doing that much
Yeah.
like physical
Or
exertion.
do you do pretty well with that? That's
I do
not
pretty
usually a
well with that
problem.
normally.
Yeah.
But once you stop doing it for a little while, you definitely lose it.
2 months is a long time. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've definitely done your 10,000 hours. You know what you're supposed to do to
Yeah.
be like an expert at something.
it's true.
But you think we could pick up this butter smooth conversation, chemistry, banter if we put it in the crapper for 2 months?
I mean,
Find
honestly,
out next year
yeah,
when we start our second podcast.
yeah. But yeah, also Danny's sister is staying with us.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a patron, so that's all the mention she gets. But yeah, so that's nice. She's visiting from Mexico.
I thought maybe there'd be a little bit more to that story. That's it.
That's about it.
I saw 2 movies well, not both in the theater, but 2 new movies that I'd like to play a quick review game
Yeah,
of
play the
because I
movies.
enjoyed them quite a bit. All right, we open on a dark alley. First, I saw they were both Well, kind of. Not really both children's movies, but kind of children's movies, a little bit both. The first thing I saw was the new Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It was really fun.
We met them.
We did meet them. They didn't ask us to be in the movie. They didn't
No.
tell us shit about the movie.
Yeah, assholes.
It's done by the Lonely Island guys. It's really funny, and it pays homage to a lot. If you grew up watching cartoons in the 90s and 2000s, every moment of the film is full of... I've never watched Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and every moment of the film is full of things that made me just feel happy and nostalgic.
Wow.
And the movie's fun and has a lot of cool concepts to go along with it. So check that one out. Secondly,
Is
the
there
one
a
I
new
wanna...
Lonely Island song in the movie?
No, but Chip 'n Dale rap extensively about how they would never eat a whale.
Nice.
I'd also like to talk briefly about the Bob's Burgers movie. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll like officially be out. But tonight, I'm seeing it for the second time, and it still doesn't technically come out until tomorrow.
Yeah, how'd you swing that, Zach?
I saw it.
Whose burger did you blow to get those tickets?
I saw it a week early. You don't want to know what I had to do to a pair of bunny
Whose
ears.
buns did you seed to get those seats, Zach?
So the first time we saw it a week early, which is really cool. And I caught wind of the screening the day of, and I was like, we're going to go do this. And we did, and it was awesome. So I would like to open by saying I am absolutely not an AMC stockholder. But they showed up on the regular showtimes for that day. It was like a AMC Stockholders Connect early screening of the Bob's Burgers movie, but it just like showed up with all of their other showtimes at this one theater. So we drove to see it. And honestly, the theater was old. It didn't have the comfy AMC seats. The movie was not loud enough. The speakers were fuzzy. The screen was a little bad. So it wasn't the perfect experience, but it was really cool to get to see it early. I was one of the first people to review it on Letterboxd, and that means absolutely nothing, but I'll hold it with me until the day I die.
Well, Zach today just realized that he's actually a 14% stakeholder in AMC. Millions of dollars in debt, and he has no idea. His
Apparently
fortune's
buying
tied
a
up in stocks.
popcorn just counts as like 20 stock.
They were giving it away during the pandemic, man.
But it was cool to see it. As far as the movie, I love Bob's Burgers. The thing that I love the most about it is that it's never lost its like middle class touch. The Simpsons used to have a really good middle class touch, but then we talked about this really recently. Like Homer went to space, and like Bart went on Conan O'Brien's show and was famous for an episode. Bob's Burgers never does that. They like have stories about we need a new sink, or like the plot of the movie is we need to make this bank payment so they don't close our restaurant. And I really like that, that it's so real. And that's one of the things I both love the most and walked away wanting more the most from the movie. It plays exactly like an episode. The entirety of the movie takes place like within 2 minutes of where they live or whatever, which is really cool. The animation is incredible. There are a lot of great cinematic things for it. But I left kind of thinking, like, I like Bob's Burgers because it's so small, and maybe it's too small for the big screen. The movie was a lot of fun, but it played like an episode of the show. It made me want to go home and watch the show. I'm excited to watch it again and see how I feel about it now that I've seen it, to see if I'm a little brighter on it. Definitely go see it. If you like Bob's Burgers, you'll like the movie. There's plenty to love about the movie. It feels a lot like a episode from the first few seasons. Like there's a lot of references to like the early seasons and stuff.
Nice.
And I love Bob's Burgers. I love H. John Benjamin. I love the characters. Teddy is really funny. I just kind of wish they had picked a different plot for the movie, I think.
Well, I'm excited to see it. I just finished the most recent season. I know you haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to spoil for you, but they do a referential episode to one of my favorite anime movies, Ghost in the Shell.
Whoa, really?
And it's like a 2-parter, and it's fucking awesome.
That's interesting.
It's super fucking cool.
I knew that the season ended with the 2-parter. I didn't know it was anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
enough
cool.
talking about other stuff. Do you have anything you want to say before we dive into Community?
So when we're recording this is like right after the most recent school shooting in Texas. I know that's a thing that's very close to...
And hopefully when we post this, that won't matter. It should still be on our mind.
Yeah. So just if you're in a position where you can vote to put people in place that are gonna
A lot of
put stricter gun
lawmakers
laws,
listen to this
yeah.
program.
We're both from Indiana, where there's not an age limit to own a gun. If you can literally be gifted a handgun when you're like 6.
And the
it's yours.
discourse of gun control is laughed.
It's bad. Yeah,
It's almost overwhelmingly negatively looked upon to have that idea.
Yeah. So just
It's
if
sad.
you're in a position to put people in place, like there's not a single politician that on their like website doesn't have their stances on different issues. It
And
takes
gun
5
control
minutes.
is one of the big
Yeah.
ones.
It takes 5 minutes to see who is going to do what when they're there. So just make sure you do that when you're going to vote, everybody.
Thanks for saying that. I'm as bad at it too. We get so involved in like the presidential election
Yeah.
and the discourse around it. And local government, maybe it's just like, a pebble thrown into a pond that starts to create a ripple. But that's where we like can actively have more say in
Exactly.
progressive people being put the places they need to be.
Yeah.
Like, for example, on a larger scale, not a lot of good stuff to say about our current administration, but there are progressive people that are being put in places that are really
Exactly.
important, and that ripple effect is important. So do your
Exactly.
stuff. Let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons!
Today we're talking about Season 5, Episode 10 of Community. We've only got 3 episodes left of Season 5, and then we're starting the final season of Community.
That's so weird.
We've got, oh my god, we've got 16 episodes left
Jesus
to
Christ.
recap. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
Hey,
me.
hey,
It
happy
truly
2-year
is.
anniversary. It was this week.
I was wondering when my present was going to... you know how
It's on the way.
there's the thing where, like, one anniversary is, like, the bronze anniversary. One anniversary is, like, the cheese anniversary. What's the second podcast anniversary?
I don't know. The first one's supposed to be, like, first anniversary is paper.
Yeah.
Second podcast anniversary, that's got to be, like, just semen, right?
Tylenol? Oh.
Swirl. Crush it up.
Okay.
Blend it.
Yikes. I'll get
I
that.
feel like
I'll
that'd
get
make,
that
like, a
for you.
paste.
We're talking about Season 5, Episode 10. It's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It was directed by Joe Russo. This is his final directing credit. This is the
It's
last
been a little
episode.
bit, yeah.
I think he did one other this season. I think he might have done the lava episode.
Yeah.
But it's the last episode of the show done by a Russo brother right here. This is it.
Wow.
And it was written by Matt Roller, who this is his first writing credit, but next season he writes Basic Email Security, and the episode originally aired on March 20th, 2014.
320!
We're back in Dungeons and Dragons territory. Obviously, the first one is... It continues to become more infamous as it goes on because of the discourse around the episode and its removal, and because of the quality of the episode from its first
Yeah.
airing. And before we get into trivia, let's have a little conversation about the fact that a lot of people are finding Community over streaming. The Dungeons and Dragons episode, even though it's a really important episode of the series to people who love the show, know the
Yeah.
touchstones of the show, but you could probably not watch that episode and... I don't think
realize.
anything happens that creates a big thing other than Neil being around more often, and occasionally they're like that time we played Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Do you think it works if this is the only Dungeons and Dragons episode people see?
They won't get all the jokes, but yeah.
But Community is so meta that they would do a sequel episode to an episode that they never did.
They did.
What do you mean?
When they're always talking about the, is it St. Patrick's Day or camping trip or whatever?
Well,
the
yeah,
episode with all the flashbacks?
yeah, but to do it on a whole scale,
Yeah.
to do like an episode that like this, we're doing hopscotch again.
The
and
Glee
they
Club
never did it
episode's a
before.
sequel to
That's
something
true.
we never got.
That's a good point. So like, I feel like that tracks for the show.
Yeah.
And
Someone could
it-
absolutely watch this and think, oh, they're just saying that time.
Yeah, I think it kind of works, even though obviously the first one is always going to hold a closer place in the heart of like hardcore Community fans. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, really.
No. And I'll say this, Zach, and I will talk more about it. I enjoyed this episode way more than even I remembered liking it. And I remembered liking
Really?
it a lot. I loved it going through this time.
I'm excited to talk about it. I don't have much. We're going to be mostly in agreement on this episode, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
But we'll hold that for a second. Let's do our trivia.
Let's do it. I took a page out of your book from the last couple weeks. I've got 7 questions.
Hey, so do I.
Wow.
Let's see if we repeat any. You go first, my friend.
Okay. What is rumored to dwell in the Black Tower?
The Necromancer.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the villain of the whole episode.
Yeah.
Stupid question. What damage does Tristram's Flesh of Fire do to Hector the Well-Endowed? What's the damage?
6.
Yes. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene's great. We'll talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
when was the bridge constructed?
Not sure.
In the Third Age.
I'm surprised you're not like, you want to guess? Do you want to take a guess?
I'm coachable, Zach. I took notes.
I've been
your one.
giving Steven some shit lately. I think it's funny. A lot of the stuff that I attack you for, I truly think is funny. So
As
you
you
can be you. You say whatever you want to say.
Nope.
But frequently, Steven will ask a question, and I'll be like, I'll have a inquisitive, huh? No, I don't think I know that one. He'll be like, try. But it'll be like, what are the names of the 5 background characters? Like, why don't you guess? What, you think I'm going to accidentally guess the 5 names that I don't know?
Hey, you never know.
And I'll be like, Trevor? Not Trevor.
Not Trevor. Not quite.
Is
You're
it your
close,
turn or mine?
though.
It's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. My second question, where besides the birthday party can Hickey not go if he loses? There's 2 things.
He can't go to Christmas, and he can't go to Thanksgiving at Aunt Sarah's.
Oh, you're so
Aunt
close.
Rachel.
Do you want to get... It is Aunt Rachel.
It was one of my actual great aunt names. I couldn't figure out
Aw.
which one, though. Yeah.
And Sarah's the other one.
Uh-huh.
That's funny.
What poster is behind Shirley and the Dean on the couch?
Oh, no.
I originally was going to ask who the director was, too, but I decided to be
Is
nice.
there a Kick Puncher poster?
It's Kick Puncher. Which Kick Puncher is it?
I don't know. I did see that there was a Kick Puncher
Do you
poster at
want to
one point.
guess? Any
Kick
question?
Puncher 3.
Not quite, Zach. We were looking
Not
for...
Trevor.
Not Trevor. We were looking for Kick Puncher Miami.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's real sexy. A bit gratuitous.
What can Shirley... No, it's my turn. What can Shirley make s'mores out of?
Ooh, something to do with a pig. Is it like pig ear? Ham ass?
It doesn't
Yes,
have anything
I can
to
only
do
make
with the
some more out of
pig.
ham ass or
No.
ham ass.
She can only make it out of horse meat
Horse
and more
meat.
horse meat.
Not ham ass. Horse meat. So
no
I was thinking
pigs.
about Hector's big old horse cock.
The more we talk about ham ass, I'm gonna get hungry. Let's move on.
Where is Hickey going to punch everyone if they lose?
Right in the heart.
Right in the heart.
I think, much like Pierce, that's something pulled from what Jonathan Banks actually said on set.
That's great.
I think he would be quite cantankerous and in a different, less abusive way, I think, than our
He's just
previous
grumpy.
old guy role. But someone would be like, hey, can you say your line like this, Jonathan? And he'd be like, I'll punch you in the heart. Which I think sounds fun.
Yeah.
What
Romantic.
separates hobgoblins from regular goblins? There's 3 things, and Abed says it. Do you want to guess?
I missed that line entirely. I'm gonna give a guess.
Yeah.
I hate when people guess when you're telling a joke, but this is not a joke. This is trivia.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. They have Hob in front of their name. They have boily noses, and they're gray.
No, they're larger, they're stronger, and they're worth more in Scrabble.
Nice. That's good. It's
good
a
one.
great line.
It's a good one.
Which direction does the river run?
West?
Ooh, we were looking for east.
That was my second guess, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's only 4.
Yeah, you did well. It was a confusing question, though, because Hickey says the river runs east, so I
We'll go
will
west.
head west.
What order do the characters die in?
I don't remember all the character names.
You can tell me study group names.
It's
And we'll
Shirley
give most
first.
credit.
Then a big gap of time. Next is the dean, who gets impaled. Next is actually Jeff.
Are
Then
you looking at
after-
something? You're not looking at something, are you?
No.
I for a second,
I
I
have
thought
you on
were-
this screen and my camera's
Okay,
here. Don't,
that's okay.
Don't accuse me of cheating, Zachary.
Sometimes I feel like you cheat. Keep going. Okay, so you're
Zach,
right.
I
so
don't
far.
do well enough at this game to cheat.
It's not-
Okay, where was it? Okay, next is the Dean. After
You did
Dean
Shirley, the Dean, and Jeff.
is Jeff. After Jeff is so here's the thing that is
It
interesting in
happens
the order
very
they die.
fast.
Because next Annie dies, and then Chang, and no, it's Annie, Britta, Chang.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
It was Shirley. She's Crouton.
Crouton.
Dean. You could have gotten some of these names. You know who the Dean is.
Jonathan
Joseph.
Taylor.
Joseph.
Joseph
That's
Gordon.
close.
Joseph
Jonathan
Gordon,
Taylor,
yeah.
Die Hard. That would have been good too.
Uh-huh.
Joseph
Then
Gordon,
Rick-
Die Hard.
Rickon.
Jeff is Sir Riggs, Die
Sir
Hard.
Riggs.
Annie is Hector the Well Endowed
Mm-hmm.
again. Britta is something with the word fibrosis.
Yeah.
And
I
Chang
think it's
is
just fibrosis.
the troll Dingleberry.
Yeah, that's what his mom calls him.
Yeah.
My next question for you. That's a good question. How long was popcorn stuck in Hank's teeth?
Dang, one of my that spoils one of my next questions. It was going to be, what does Hank have stuck in his tooth?
Ah,
Does he say it's been stuck in my for like an hour?
not
For
quite.
like an hour? All day?
Nope.
What is it, buddy?
15 minutes.
Oh, not that long. You can live with that a little longer.
Yeah,
That's not that
you
bad.
suck it up.
So I only have one more
There's
question.
still flavor in that bad boy.
I only have one more question. Do you want me to give it to you?
I only
You
have one
take
more
the last
question.
one?
Go for it.
What does Hillary Rodham Clinton? God, what does that would be a different question. What does Hillary Rodham Kitten fail to accomplish?
She tries to pass crumpets.
Yeah, you fail.
If they just check their inventory,
If it was Hillary Rodham Clinton, what did she fail to accomplish? It would be a different question.
it would be.
One more for me.
Winning an easy presidential election like 3 times.
You would have thought.
Yeah. Where does Jeff hold Britta's face in the fight?
My grandparents are calling me right now. I'll
Ooh.
answer after I answer your question. Okay, I'll do it. Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Zach.
Hey.
Hey, I've been working on this TV ever since I talked to you,
Uh-huh.
and I've got it mounted and working. However, through several troubleshootings, I found out that our remote is not working
Oh, no.
properly. So they're going to send me a new one, be 7 to 10 days.
Oh, okay. Well, do you still want me to come over tomorrow to try to help?
No, that's what I was calling you about. So you won't need to come tomorrow.
Okay, well, if you need help once you get the remote, let me know.
Okay, it'll be 7 to 10 days, they said. So thank you.
Yeah, hopefully I see you guys before then, but if you get it and you still have trouble, let me know.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right. Bye, Grandpa.
Bye.
That was more wholesome than funny.
Prankton! We broke the remote!
Loser!
Have fun not getting to watch TV conveniently for 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, okay, so that was less of a fun distraction than I thought it would be. What
It's okay. It
your
was
last
really
que-
cute.
give
I
it to
had
me
like
one
a
more time.
little like tiny fear in my head that it was gonna be like, Zach, your great uncle Bartholomew passed this
Or
morning.
even worse, like I'm this is awful. So I'm currently standing in the blood of my life partner. Could you help? The voices, they all got to me. All the voices. I had to do it. Can you help me clean it up? Also, our TV remote on the fritz. If you could maybe cross that off the list too. I'd bring like some Clorox, maybe
some batteries.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Some AAA's.
Oh boy! Shout out to Zach's grandparents. Good sports.
Okay, one more question.
So where does Jeff hold Britta's face in the fight?
Is it just I hold Britta's face in the mud?
Mm,
In the dirt?
mm,
In the ground?
you're going the wrong direction.
In the water? I don't
Oh,
know.
what kind of water?
Is
Come on.
it Trevor? Is it
Come
Trevor?
on.
It's
Is it
got to be Trevor. I don't. Is a kind of water in the lake? In the
Oh,
ocean?
no.
No, in the toilet.
Whoa!
What other
somewhere in
kinds of
between.
water is there?
Somewhere in the middle.
Right in the lemonade of the soda fountain that also shoots out water.
Oh, you're further from the truth.
I don't know.
In the puddle.
Okay, I did think it was funny that Jeff was just like, I put Britta's face.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's some trivia. We did it. That was fun. What do we got from the fans?
We've got a
Papa?
couple of letters carried in a hawk's claw. Only 2 made it through.
Tied together by Dean Pelton's shirt.
Exactly.
The odds of these emails being read off on our podcast, Abed said it's near impossible.
But
here we
2
are.
made it through, which is beautiful. The first one's from our good friend and new patron, Artie. Artie says, "Hi, Zach and Steven. Cheers for reading out my email. I've never actually written to a podcast host before, so it was a bit surreal listening to someone else read my own words aloud."
Aw, you picked the right podcast. Our standards are very low. If you email us, we're gonna read it.
Read it. Unless you email too late, then we will not read it.
We've read some long emails out on the show that had very little to do with what we've asked people to
It's true.
email us.
It's true. To answer your question, I'm from East London, and to my American friends, I sound like a character off EastEnders. So Cockney or
That's
multicultural London English. Now, Cockney is one I can do. I'm going to do a couple sentences
Oh, I really don't want you
just
to,
so Artie
'cause
can rate it.
That's the one voice that everybody thinks they can do, because it's like...
Well, you see,
street
Zach, you've got to start
trash.
with more of like a push upper London accent,
my
and then you've
God.
got to just descend it into darkness, and eventually with like a strong Cockney accent. I don't think my accent's particularly strong, but I'd enjoy hearing either of you give it a go. By the way, happy belated 2 years of a podcast.
You know, I know that...
They gave permission.
They gave permission. I don't know well enough to say if you're doing a good job or not. I just think typically when Americans try to do an accent like that, it's not very good. And even with all of those caveats, I feel like that might have been the most offensive thing to me in the 2 years of podcasting. We've
I
gone
apologize
on
for
about
all of
Jared
Cockney
Fogle.
England.
We've gone on about 9/11. I think.
Yeah,
But
9/11
that
popped
one,
up a lot.
That one really pursed my butthole lips real tight.
Thanks, Artie.
Thanks,
Artie goes
Artie.
on to say, pivoting to this week's episode, as should we. I thought that was great, actually. I think that I I did it justice. Pivoting to this week's
Let's
episode,
let Artie say.
Advanced
I'm gonna call it a
Dungeons and
draw.
Dragons is definitely in my top 5 for season 5. It's an
Okay.
absolute gem of a sequel to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons from season 2, which I actually hadn't seen until January this year because I only found Community when it appeared on Netflix in the UK. And by the time I started watching the show at the start of 2021, that episode had already been removed. I've heard that it's still available on Amazon Prime, but from the bottom of my heart, Jeff Bezos. The episode is also on YouTube. Nice! Artie just winning points left and right.
We like you, Artie. I missed if she said if she had seen the original or not.
She said she hadn't seen it until January.
So she had watched the show without that
Yes.
episode and then finally caught wind of it. Interesting. I'd be interested if she wants to have correspondence about what her feeling is seeing this as the Dungeons & Dragons episode. Was she
Totally.
aware at the time? I don't know. Interested.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's find out. I'm just kidding. I don't know if Artie addressed it. I doubt it. I appreciate that the season 5 episode makes a few callbacks to the season 2 episode, but it's still able to stand on its own and not be a play-by-play repeat of what we've already seen. In particular,
Agreed.
I thought it was hilarious that Annie plays Hector the Well-Endowed again. I found this short video of Alison Brie bloopers while playing this character, and there's a YouTube link. I initially thought this was a goof because Abed had written that character for Troy. But of course, that probably means that Abed really misses Troy, and this is his way of keeping him in the game. The sound and visual effects in both D&D episodes do a great job immersing the characters and audience into this high-stakes, Tolkien-esque world. You can press I got Tolkien-esque, first try, no pause. My favorite effects were the flames appearing in the lenses of Hank Hickey's glasses, and of course, the sound of Dean Pelton being impaled. That was fantastic. That was really good.
The hawk's cry when he finally dies.
Yeah. Another thing I like about this episode is that it doesn't have a sickly, sweet, and unrealistic ending with a father and son resolving to get along. We don't know for certain whether their relationship goes anywhere from here, and sometimes it's good when episodes have an open ending. I agree. Favorite quotes from this
Artie
episode?
with the solid takes.
Yeah, Artie.
We're a couple
W.
sentences away from some real Jeff and Annie shit bait. But the true heart of this episode is the undying love between Jeff and Annie.
She sticks with him through the war, through death, through it all. Favorite quotes from this episode include, but definitely not limited to, from Hank, That's just what I love about role-playing games. Being told exactly what to do, to which Dean Pelton comments,
Oh, me too.
Me too. Shirley, I'm dead, but it's okay. I'm on your side, which is why I'm dead. That was great.
And then she says, remember, whenever the wind blows in the west, that you let me die.
And then
that's
Jeff's
funny, but I do not appreciate the quickness of
Shirley's departure.
Like, I know Yvette was complaining to them about not getting more to do, so she's the one character that dies and leaves.
Yeah.
Come on.
Jeff's, I hold Britta's face in a puddle. Let's see. While there is nothing in the episode that I actively hate, I find Jeff's decision to side with Professor Hickey on this issue and say that every man has the right to hang out with his grandson odd, given what we saw in the Thanksgiving episode of Season 4. I also think that maybe Season 6 Britta would have empathized with Hank's perspective more, given that she's, at this point, actively avoiding her parents. Season 1 Britta would have too, given that Abed's father's attitude reminded her of her own father in Season 1, Episode 1, Intro to Film. I
agree, but yes, and the study group is friends with Hickey. They already care about him, and they have heard him talk about like his son's gay wedding. The other son, they've heard him talk about being like invested with his family in that way. I think from their perspective, they don't think that it's the same type of like dad that was never around like what Jeff had. You know what I mean? I can see why they're trying to help out Hickey here.
I predict that you guys will probably dislike when Hank Hickey called Abed Aziz at the start, as you've called out similar microaggressions in the past. I know it's a reference to the fact that South Asian sitcom actors all get confused for each other, even though none of them really look alike at all, and the actors themselves will joke about it. But the fact that no one corrected Hank in the episode and let this overt racism slide irks me a little as a South Asian myself. Totally agree. That was no bueno.
Yeah.
I remember I looked at Danny immediately and was like, nope.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. I looked at Lily. Here's what I'll say. I'm to the point where Community has those microaggressions. I've kind of and it's a show that sometimes does it purposefully and in a way that's funny, which both makes it disappointing when they do it the opposite. And I've kind of learned, I hate that I have to do, but to be able to do the podcast that we do, sometimes we just have to overlook stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not dwell too much on it. My issue is, I wonder if maybe that was a ad lib of David Cross's, and if that's true, it would tell a slightly different story.
Yeah,
that he just looks and sounds nothing like Aziz Ansari.
Yeah.
At all.
Because that's a very Pierce thing to say.
Yeah, sure.
Although not that Pierce would know who Aziz Ansari is either.
And it's also a joke that like Aziz at the time was like the other brown person who's in a main supporting role on an NBC sitcom.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm torn as to who I would pick for an MVP. It's a toss-up between the Dean. Jim Rash truly delivers in this episode, and the Dean's deep love for his father / Jeff was hilariously portrayed. And Abed. Both D&D episodes really showcase Danny Pudi's acting. He's a brilliant dungeon master, but his bit with Professor Hickey as goblins being interrogated never fails to crack me up. I'll probably make up my mind while listening to the podcast. I'm sorry for not doing any trivia last week. I felt my email was already really long and I didn't want to ask questions that you had already asked each other. But here are mine for this week.
Yeah, don't let it happen again, though.
List the character deaths in the order they happen in the episode. Ooh, not starting up strong, Artie.
Let me do it, though, because I wrote it down. I didn't have to do it from memory. Let me try to do it from memory. I'm sure I can. First is Shirley. Then is the Dean. Then is Jeff. Then is Annie, Britta. Then Chang.
Yeah.
Did I miss anybody?
No, I think you got everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Which 3 movies are referenced in Jeff and the Dean's character names?
Joseph Gordon references so many movies.
Yeah.
Die Hard, obviously. What is Sir Riggs? Riggs is Lethal Weapon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Was it 3?
Yeah.
So I don't really have a specific answer for Joseph Gordon, but I imagine like it's just Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Which character from the first D&D episode is memorialized on Abed's map?
It's Pierce. There's like a Hawthorne something or other.
Nice.
Something on the map is called Hawthorne something.
Okay. I didn't see the map well enough to know if there was like a memorial.
They say it out loud too, so maybe they're thinking of something else.
Yeah, because there is like a Hawthorne's Ridge or whatever.
Yeah.
If you guys have already asked each other these questions, I can only apologize. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts
it's
on the
not enough.
episode. Hope you have a great week ahead, Artie. They
Thanks
spelled
for
apologize the UK way, so Lil will be a fan of.
Thanks for another knockout email, Artie.
Yeah, that's great.
But now you've listened to all our episodes, so you know how these things go. We've become invested in listeners and then been burned by them many times. I'm talking MJ. Where's he been? I'm talking Tim Tam. What's that little scamp been up to? So I really want to be invested in you as a new friend of the show, Artie, but I feel like you'll just fade away like the rest of them do. We've only got like 16 weeks left, so I mean, you don't have a ton of
It's not
time
that
to stick
long
around.
yeah.
But I have a feeling that a couple weeks from now we're gonna be saying, "Where's Artie?"
Yeah.
I hope
What if
that's not
MJ?
true.
I hope MJ comes back for the last episode.
MJ's like, "I've been emailing you for every episode." What happened? We had him on the show.
We had MJ on the show. It flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
We
We were
trivia
just
answers.
so eager because like somebody really likes us.
Yeah. Chang, you got all the
Yeah.
people dying in the right order. Looper, Die Hard, and Lethal Weapon. So he is
Looper
does
for Joseph
Looper.
Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 3 was Brutalitops. Is
Well,
given a
because
memorial
in-
bridge.
Looper, Bruce Willis, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt play different versions of the same person.
Yeah.
And what was the last one? Was it Hawthorne? Was that right?
No, Brutalitops had a memorial bridge.
Brutalitops, the magician. We're not allowed to talk about him. That was Chang's.
Oh.
I am Brutalitops, the magician. Remember that?
And that's all from Artie. Thanks, Artie.
Thank you, Artie.
Our next email is from
Hope we hear from
our
you
daddy.
Daddy.
Daddy says, "Hi guys."
And what Daddy says goes.
Right. Hope all is
Hi.
well. This episode has some great moments, particularly Hickey's interrogation of the hobgoblins played by Abed. It was great to see Fabulous Neil in the background. Enjoy. Communities, Matt.
Thanks.
Trivia.
We will. Okay.
What is the name of the mountain Abed's story begins with?
Oh, shoot. Oh,
It was like-
shoot. I think it starts with a B.
I thought it was Rage. Or like
Maybe.
Fire
I don't-
Mountain, Rage Mountain.
I don't remember. That's
Destruction
a good question.
Mountain.
I don't remember. Yeah.
B. Balthazar.
Balto.
Okay, Zach's going with Baldo.
Baldo Mountain. I'm
Baldo
going with
Mountain,
Baldo
final
Mountain.
answer.
Final
When was
answer.
the bridge constructed? The
said
Third
this one.
Age.
Yeah. Not the fourth.
Not the fourth. Not the golden. Who's the last to die in the game? That was Chang.
Yeah.
Dingleberry.
Because he was the first in the first one.
Yeah.
I feel like is why they did that.
Answers. Number 1 was
Dingleberry
Rage
Smash.
Mountain.
Not Baldo.
Not Baldo. We'll check that.
Yeah.
I think we might be right on that one.
Jerome,
2,
can
the
you run
Third
the tapes?
Age. And then Chang's
Can we clip that,
Dingleberry.
Jerome?
3 for 3 for Papa.
Okay, Pops.
We did,
That's the emails.
yeah. Thanks, guys.
Let's move right into Steven and I's preferred favorite funny moments. Did you write a lot down this time?
I got not as many as I actually laughed at 'cause I was too busy watching the episode and I
Sure.
was enthralled, but
Let's go rapid fire.
let's do it.
Fabulous Neil, of course, but specifically that he's walking around doing this and that in the background as he's being talked about.
Yeah,
doing the
that's
same
good.
thing.
I loved
good.
the Dean reading the character sheets. That was really funny.
What
when he gets
specifically?
like
What did he
choked
say?
up
Oh,
The bond
between
between-
father and son.
between father and a son.
I've got a lot of Deans on my funny moments list. Just
Yeah.
of him yelling, "Father!"
I liked when they were. I don't remember what led up to it, but I think Chang was the one who was like Times Square.
No, he says, "Well, you know where my dad was a lot of that time? Something that
It
rhymes with not there.
Times Square.
I
really
put
good.
this is another Dean line. This is when they're being attacked by like flying spiders or something. He says, "I will not scoop you with the catalog and let you outside this day."
Yeah, that was great. I liked when they did the fist bump and he like knocked on his hand 3
Just
times.
like his dad.
Yeah, that was really
That's what
funny.
Hickey does. The whole thing of the scene where the Dean is writing letters
Oh my God.
and rolling them up, using his shirt to tie it up, and Abed throwing them in the trash when he rolls for it every time. Very good. And then the Dean, oh my God, they get so much like low-key, really blue material out of rubbing the hilt and
yeah.
just the Dean talking about, and every night I rub and think of you and hope that one day you'll be rubbing too. I just think it's so funny.
So funny.
Stuff like that that's so dirty but told in a kind
Yeah.
of classy way just makes me laugh so hard.
I thought it was hilarious that Hank was singing like the Sky Spider like song, and,
Yes.
like with Abed not even in there. Like they were committed.
That's just him. Well,
That's
he's
just
really
him.
into the game.
Yeah.
He takes it seriously. I've got two more. The Dean's death scene, very good. Mostly because of the sound effects and just how the character of the Dean leans into the dramatics. He's like that character in this episode. He just really leans into the dramatics of the situation, and I think it's really funny.
Yeah. I love the whole like fight scene that comes afterwards, but especially I wrote down when Chang's like troll sound.
That's my last one. Both troll noise, and then
Troll
he says
noise, yeah.
dingleberry smash.
It was really funny.
Super funny. That's what you got?
Yeah, that's what I got.
All right, so let's get into it. You've said you really love this episode. How does it compare to the first one? We can. I think
The first
they're
one might be my
different.
favorite episode of the whole show, Zach.
Yeah,
Stuff.
I think they're different enough to where you don't have to have that conversation, but it's important not to. What makes is it just because the first one did it first, or are there things that the first one did better?
I think there are things that the first one did better. I think there are things that this one does better. I think the first
I
one
agree.
The first one for me is on a very grand scale. It feels like life and death are at stake.
While they're just at the table
Yeah.
for the most part.
And I think having like Pierce is this villain, that there is a good and there is a bad, where in this one there's two different sides, and
the villain is purely within the game.
yeah,
So it's not like a threat within the people, really.
exactly.
Although, all of the things that I can say that, like, maybe aren't my favorite about this episode compared to the first one, I am likewise glad that they just didn't do the same thing again.
I
like,
agree.
I like the idea that even though I kind of wish they had just been sitting around a table the whole episode, I kind of like that they were like, well, let's not just do that again.
Yeah.
Let's put everyone in two separate rooms and see what happens.
Well, and where I think that this episode shines is I think that this episode is more realistic to what it feels like to play a really fun game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Do you think so?
I think so. I think this one is a lot more like game savvy. Like there's a lot more like strategy used. I think in the fight especially, it's really funny like having them use their different attacks, and then Abed being like, you're out of that, so you gotta do something
You're out
else.
of throwing
and, like,
stars.
and I think that Abed really gets to shine a lot more as a dungeon master in this episode.
I think you'd be surprised if you went back and watched the first one again, how much of the same is still on display in that one. But Abed certainly does shine in this episode, especially in moments where he in the first one, he's so serious about the game. In this one, he's both serious about the game and very defensive of what it means and how important the game is and being partial is. And that side of Abed's Dungeon Master I really like in this episode. There's one other thing. We should get into the thing. But there was one other thing I was trying to think of that's not... Oh, obviously... The biggest thing that I think this episode does right, and then we'll start, is putting the Dean in the game.
Putting the goddamn Dean in it. Brilliant.
Okay, let's dig into the episode. It's a great episode.
Hey, Zach?
Yes. I'm not screen sharing with you.
Well, but we also skipped...
Oh my god, we did!
Yeah.
I skipped it entirely.
That's what I thought you were getting into when
We've
you
gone
asked what I thought about the
way
episode.
too far, because we usually do that before the favorite funny moment. Guys, it is time. We cannot waste a second. We're already 45 minutes in this thing. The days of the hour and 20-minute last week episode are far behind us. Everyone, it's time to finally find out. I know you've been wondering, Steven, watch the episode.
Did Steven
watch
the episode this week? Governor?
If you're trying to sound like if you're trying to sound like a comedian if you're trying to sound like Dick Van Dyke doing the Cockney accent, you've got it. I don't think anyone actually walks the streets of East London.
Have you ever been to Cock?
I guess we've got it. Now, Steven. I think we've got to have Artie on the show, or to record us a little voice
I really hope
sample.
Artie comes on the show and is like, well, governor, you get...
Hello, I'm a big fan, I am.
You know, that was a little bit more like... I'm just kidding. I don't know the regional accent.
I did not ask for input.
I have
Just
some
green
I have
lights.
some notes.
3, 2. Are you ready? Do you feel ready?
Oh,
How do you
I think
feel?
I'm not going to do great, but I'll go for it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hickey's son won't let him come to the baby's birthday, so they're all gonna play some D&D to get the boys together. The dean's gonna join this time. Chang's there too. They start playing the game. They split up into different factions to kill this necromancer because daddy and son just can't agree. They have to switch up all the characters. The dean is Jeff's son, and he loves and wants to find him back. Writes him letters. The hawk brings them after
Stop.
a liberal.
You got a lot in there, and I would have been more happy if you got less, but got to the end of the dean and his son. If you, or not of the dean, of Hickey and his son, if you were able to tell that full story. We've got this bad habit, both of us, of like really stalling out the gate lately on this. I think that's a B. Almost a B minus, but I do think I'm gonna curve up to a B.
Well, thanks. I love
because
a good
these
curve
grades
up.
don't mean shit. It's just whatever I'm feeling when it's
Yeah.
time to say something. What did you say?
I said I love a good curve up.
Okay, let's not curve anymore. Let's actually get into the episode.
Let's do it.
It starts with a really funny joke that has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons, the insurance joke. When he's like, guys, we need to talk about insurance. What about it? The school needs some. And like Chang has a guy on the street that he can get insurance from, and Hickey's reacting to not being invited to the birthday party, but when he like huffs and gruffs, Chang's like, what, you better than street insurance? I think it's a funny joke to start off the episode. I'm noticing as we get into the season just how integral to the season Hickey truly is.
Yeah.
I love the character. He is a character that can start the plot of an episode just as well as any other character is.
Well, and I think because Hickey is utilized as more than just like he's filling a seat role, it makes you forget that Pierce and Troy aren't there anymore. Because honestly, Hickey's being used better than Pierce was the last 2 seasons he was on the show.
Now, is that the show's fault, or is that how much the actor was willing to commit to the show? You know what
exactly.
I mean?
You know,
like
now that
maybe
you have...
it's both. It's probably both, but certainly it seems like Hickey's disposition, the type of person he is, and how that can be useful and how it can be grating. They use that really well, and they've told good stories with it so far that we haven't seen since like the first 2 seasons with Pierce. And even then, Pierce was always so much the goofball that it's a different kind of, or Chevy was such a goofball that they're telling different stories of this type of guy, and I like him a lot. So very quickly, Hickey mentions that his son that he is estranged from, that he isn't getting invited to this birthday party. Not the gay son, he gets that one. It's this other one. He doesn't get that one. He's really into Dungeons and Dragons, and of course, the study group lights up very quickly to do a sequel episode because they've played Dungeons and Dragons before. I like the little disagreement with Jeff and Abed, where Abed, and I like him being the voice of reason, he's like, does everyone think we saved someone, or do you think we almost made a guy kill himself?
Yeah.
And that adds to the great Neil joke, but I just love that Abed is the voice of reason here. Of, do you guys really think we fixed the problem there, or did we create a huge one and then fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
Neil being in the background of this shot, Charlie Kuntz showing up just for this visual joke. It's very, very funny.
Very funny. I like it.
The idea that an episode can be so invested in this character a couple seasons ago, and yeah, he shows up when he needs to. He's doing some stuff. Glad he didn't kill himself. Abed's line about pulling off a satisfying sequel is straight like Dan to us.
Yeah.
Saying like, well, yeah, doing a sequel is always hard and never goes the right way. But if it is the right way this time, that makes me better than everybody. Let's do it.
Which is absolutely where Dan Harmon's head is, I think. And we've seen that through this show. Rick and Morty, you know, he always points out, hey, I'm doing a sequel and I'm going to do it great.
It's agreed. They're not wasting any time. The episode wastes no time. We're getting right into the Dungeons & Dragons game. The first episode of this did that too, but it's in a different way this time.
Yeah, I like it.
They'll decide quickly. And then all of a sudden, the dean is just standing there the whole time. He had been standing there. And as they agree to play a game, he's like, oh, you know, it's short notice, but I'll be there. No one was really expecting him to come or be there right then or to be a part of it. And then we get a new theme song sequence, and it wasn't until this time... I thought it was boring because in the first one we get the rewrite of the entire Cootie Catcher, we get the new pictures for everybody, but this one it's more and more setting in how much they're setting up for this to be very Tolkien inspired.
Yeah,
This to be a
it's
very,
very
Lord of the Rings adventure, a different side of Dungeons and Dragons
Mm-hmm.
than we got last time. Last time we got a very medieval, not that Lord of the Rings isn't in its own way, but a different kind of medieval vibe last Dungeons and Dragons. This one's a lot more creature focused.
Mm-hmm.
I see now the Kick Puncher poster. You were going to ask me to say it was directed by Kim Yang.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love
let's talk
that
about
Kim Yang.
David Cross. David
Yay!
Cross is cast as Hank, Hickey's estranged son. Obviously, I don't know how big of a David Cross fan I actually am. I haven't watched a lot of his stand-up, and I know that he goes some...
Alvin and the Chipmunks?
I know that he goes some tough places in his stand-up that might like make me cringe a little bit. But... obviously, Arrested Development was like my first favorite TV show of all time, and Tobias was my favorite character for the longest time.
Yeah.
So iconic, and David Cross is such an iconic comedic performer, and I think when this episode first aired, I was a little bit disappointed by how like not quirky and funny he was in the episode, but I've grown to appreciate it a lot more. I think he actually gives a really great, really grounded performance. It used to make me think, well, it could have just been anyone then. But I think David Cross really does shine in this episode in a different way than he's usually asked to when he comes on to be in a show for a week.
Well, because I think you have to understand how to be funny to be not funny and still funny, you know? How to
Yes.
not be joking. And he's got it. Because he's such a clown of a character when he's Tobias or when he's like playing the villain in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
And so he knows how to be serious
The
while
two
still being
things
a
that
clown.
you know David Cross from.
Yes. He's also on one of those shows. Which one was he like a guest on a lot? Or not a guest, but like a recurring character in the sketches. Tim and Eric, is he in some of those?
Probably. I don't know if that much. He and Bob Odenkirk had their own sketch show.
That's
for
what
a
I'm
while.
thinking of.
Mr. Show.
I've watched Mr. Show. I like Mr. Show.
Something I like about this episode is immediately when they're passing out the character sheets, Hank clocks what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, he and his dad are a father and son character. They're trying to be brought back together. Abed is setting up the situation of the necromancer. So it's clear that Abed isn't exactly the one orchestrating all this. He's just happy to have an excuse to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And okay, so we get that's what I love about role-playing games, being told exactly what to do, which is a funny joke in a lot of ways. It's funny because of the way that Dean reacts to it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's kind of Dungeons and Dragons is presented by Community is a lot more Dungeon Master led, and it's a funny joke because in the actual game Dungeons and Dragons, which Hank has played before, the Dungeon Master isn't telling you exactly what you need to do and where you need to go. So I think that's a funny joke in a lot of ways. It's a good nerd joke. Joseph Gordon Die Hard and Sir Riggs Die Hard might be my two favorite Community D&D character names.
It's really good.
Hank clocks what's going on immediately, like as soon as the names are read.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny how everyone's like, no. And the dean, who's just having a good time to be there, who's just having a good time and happy to be there, he's like, no, what? Like he's just having a good time. So Hank makes the decision to just take everyone's character sheets, reshuffle them, redistribute them, and thank God that he does it because it adds to some really, really fun dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
So now Hank is Tristram Steelheart, of course named after community director Tristram Shapiro. I think that's a good little thing. They're all just going around introducing themselves. This is one of those episodes that needs to be seen more than it needs to be described because a lot of it is the sound effects, the star of these Dungeons and Dragons episodes. What makes them more special than just about any episode of television is that they build this world that you can see and feel without seeing anything. It's all done with sound and with description and with cutting from shot to shot quickly of the action. That's what I think these episodes, what makes them so special, is that
really
you can
great.
see the adventure just like you can when you play a game like this without seeing anything but your friends in the room around you.
So good.
We get the reveal that now Jeff and Dean are father and son, Jeff being the daddy boy and the Dean being his son. Sir Riggs, I love his voice. You're right. Jim Rash does such a good job of like with his hand motions and the way he reads it, that he's like reading and reacting to it in real time.
Yeah, it looks
doesn't
like
feel
he's
like a
seeing
prepared
it for the
piece of
first time.
dialogue. He's like, okay, he reads it in a way that I would if I was reading my character sheet for the first time. And it's really funny. You already mentioned it, him tearing up over the bond between father and son, him just being so into him and Jeff being father and son. We're to the point in Community where you would think after a while the dean pining over Jeff would be grating, that we'd be sick of it. But they always find new, weirder, vaguer ways to do it that just makes it get funnier and funnier.
Yeah.
We're a handful of episodes away from 5 cans of olives, which is just one of the best things in the entire show. Somehow they managed to still make this work, even though it's a very obvious joke to make that the dean would be so excited to be Jeff's son in this.
Yeah. Huzzah!
So it's set up what they're supposed to do, but Hank is pretty much sabotaging the game.
Yeah,
from the
he's
very
like, well, I'm
beginning.
going to go the opposite way that everyone else is going.
Yeah. Do you like Hank? Do you think he's a good dude? He is a hard ass. I like that. He's a lot like his dad. He's a hard ass. He's
and that's why they butt
he's just
heads
going to
so
go the
much.
opposite way. Yeah.
But I
think
also
this-
understand being like, listen, you guys don't understand. I spent my entire life of him being a shitty dad. He doesn't get to just decide that he's entitled to anything. He wasn't in my life, and I don't want him in my son's life.
I'm just so realizing how great the father-son story they tell in this episode is. I can't quite relate to that dynamic that they have, but you know from listening to the podcast, me and Steven got daddy issues.
Yeah.
I can relate to resenting someone so hard can turn you into what you resent about the other person.
Sure.
And I think they tell a really good slight, subtle story about that in this episode. That maybe Hank is just like, at least Hickey's like reaching out and like wanting to make a change. Of course, Hank's frustration is well suited and he's to feel that way, but also maybe there's 20 years of distance from it or what. I don't know. It's a really interesting and complicated issue that all of a sudden this character played by David Cross that we've never met before, we know everything we need to know about this dynamic so fast.
I feel like
I think
this
they do a
is
great job at
like
it.
the full realization of like the equivalent, like the trailer we got with Annie's brother saying, I was a kid, you know, and there's a lot of stuff there we don't know. We're only showing what Annie was telling us originally, but then we learn more. Here, we're seeing there's a lot of layers beneath this, like, well, Hickey wants to go to his grandkid's birthday party. He should be able to see his grandkid on their birthday, but we didn't know, okay, well, Hickey wasn't there for his kid at all. His son and him don't have a relationship. He doesn't want him there, you know, so...
Yeah. He's really off on all this. This is where we get the flame in Hank's eyes. It's really cool.
Great.
Annie, is it?
Yeah.
Because he burns Hector. Annie is trying to help him because he's just being flippant and going away from the rest of the group, but Annie's trying to like yes and
you
help
think
him
they
get out of
named
the
him
jam he got himself into.
Hank after Hank from Breaking Bad?
That's funny.
That was
I
my
don't know.
thought.
I didn't even think about that. Maybe.
Clever.
So he
Dressed
burns up
in
Hector.
leather.
This is fun because they're playing with more people that know. You're right. That know the spells that he can just pull at the beginning of the game. He can just do whatever he wants. Everyone else is kind of like waiting to learn what is at their disposal before they start using it.
Well, but we even see, even the study group is a lot more experienced than they were. They know to look at their character sheet and see spells. They know, like, oh, I can do this. They're like, oh, well...
Later on, we'll get when Shirley dies, Annie knows to, like, loot the other players for their items when they die. I'm sure that was a very determined effort to say, well, these people aren't playing it all the time, but they played it successfully last time.
Exactly. So they learned
from
something.
that? Yeah. What's going on in the world of the story here? In the world of Dungeons
So
and
the
Dragons?
bridge is burning up. Abed's trying to see if everyone can hang on and like not fall, but Jeff's like, actually think about the strength of the bridge, and Abed being within the world is like, oh, you're right, this bridge actually isn't that strong. It collapses immediately regardless of how dexterous you are.
And they all fall into the water. That's one of our first great Dean reactions when we see him. Is this when do we see him here? No, not
yet.
quite yet. There's a point in a little bit where he gasps out of the water. First, we got some father-son fighting. Hickey, I really like I really like the development of Hickey's character in this episode. That how stubborn he is for the concept of actually playing this game in a different way than the characters were in the first episode, and he might never actually fully come around to playing. He's always like crotchety and off put by all of it. So I like that he just can't even put aside what's really going on. He has to yell at his son about the birthday party because that's what's on his mind. He doesn't care about this game. That was just an excuse to get everybody together. He's not going to like wait around for the right time to say something.
Yeah.
He just says what's going on. And Hank's like, of course, because I don't know. It's a good scene.
Well, and here's where I agree with Hank is that, he's like, I didn't invite you because I wanted it to be like a happy affair. I didn't want it to be a fight. I didn't want it to be this. I was just saying the other day, like, I know for a fact I'm not going to invite every person I'm ever related to and known to my wedding. Like, I don't feel like anyone's entitled to anything,
That is...
Sorry, Mom!
You're not getting the invite. You didn't make the cut. No, I completely agree, and it's hard. It's hard because of, like, familial expectations and learning what is actually important to you and what is, like, guilted upon to you, and when it is right to put what you actually want aside for that familial guilt, and learning also when it's okay to be assertive and say, I want to have fun at this party, so I'm inviting the people that are going to be fun, or this member of the family... like saying what you say, because I have similar things. This member of the family, if they're at, this is like my day, and if they're at the thing, I'm going to be stressed or mad about that, so I'm not going to do that. That should be more accepted than it is. And you're right, it's a very real issue that they have here. And the episode does a whole great job throughout of showing that there's no easy solution to this issue. Yeah. A game of Dungeons and Dragons will not fix...
Doesn't fix it, yeah.
Yeah.
But at least it can be a common ground, which is what I like.
Yeah. I even like that this is the first episode in a while that Jeff has tried to stand up, make some speeches, tried to lead a conversation, and this is a time when he actually, like, well, speaking from experience, I can try to help, but they even, like, he's putting his foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's, like, getting in the way of anything ever actually happening. This is when we get the great gasp from the dean as he's coming up from the water. Father! I love that. Abed is asked to help in the situation. He's like, no, I wouldn't be a good dungeon master if I helped. You guys are now separate from each other. The father and son can't just be forced to be together to work out their problems. That's not the game. He'd be a bad dungeon master if he pulled the strings for that to work. So now they have to keep playing separate from each other. Hank tries to call it quits.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? That's cool. See ya.
This obviously sucks. But then Hickey, he's like, okay, I'll try. But he makes a bet out of it. And not a good bet. This is such an unhealthy bet that they make off of this.
Oh, it's bad.
That if Hickey finds the necromancer first, he gets to go to the birthday party. I like his line. He's like, we'll settle this like men, or whatever you call the guys that play this.
Yeah.
That's a good Hickey line. And if Hank wins... he won't go to the party, but Hank adds also, you won't go to Christmas, and you won't go to Aunt Rachel's Thanksgiving. I definitely relate to the, you don't even go to that. I would if you weren't there.
Yeah, sure.
I relate to that stuff. Man, Jonathan Banks does a great job in this episode, too. The way he delivers some of that, okay, fine, when you can tell that there's so much that he wants to say, or like so many angry thoughts coming up in his head, but he's like, okay, we'll do this. We're going to win. Father and son are split up in two ways. I will find you as the door slams. I love the dean in this episode. We said it already, but that's one of the best decisions this episode makes. It's another great D&D episode, but the topic at the center of it is really heavy. And the show doesn't really get to stray too far away from the heaviness. Pierce being a villain in the first one also added to some really silly goofs around him being the villain. This episode's so heavy, the dean being there and the father-son storyline being mirrored by Jeff and the dean's father-son storyline is really the levity that this episode needs.
It is. It was so smart.
I even thought when Hickey, to go back to Jonathan Banks doing such a good job, when he says, if any of you fail, if we lose this, I'm going to punch each of you in the heart. It's a funny, like, alpha male line, like, pro-masculine, like, super jacked, like, I'm going to punch you in the heart. But the way that he says it shows that that's, like, him saying that his feelings are in this.
Yeah, he's like, this is really important to me.
Yeah, but he doesn't say stuff like that. I think Jonathan Banks does a great job in this episode.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, after a commercial break, they're split up and they're kind of like looking to survive, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're taking stock of the supplies that they have, mostly dead horse meat. They're building a fire. But Hickey isn't trying to play that game. He's trying to go find the necromancer. He doesn't understand that, I don't know, they can't just go start guns a-blazing, because if they don't have any stuff or any skills, they're just going to get their ass handed to them the first time. So he's not willing to just sit back and wait. And also, here in a second, we get a really good Abed speech that I like a lot too, Hickey. Hickey isn't separating himself from the character that he's playing in this game, which is very important for a game like this. He's talking about, I didn't scamper through the jungles of Nicaragua. I'm leaving. I'll fake rest when I'm fake dead. That's when they're found by some hobgoblins. Which is going to lead to our first real fight, sort of the episode, our first combat. They go to fight. Hickey punches him in the heart, but he misses and he falls down. The hobgoblins come on them and not come on them.
Yeah.
Come at them, charge on them.
So the hobgoblins just burst out of the hob walls with their big old hob dicks and just shoot.
And Shirley tries to cast a spell, which works, but she gets shot in the process. They end up scaring away the hobgoblins by attacking them. The hobgoblins don't like their odds. They leave. But Shirley does not make it. What an injustice to kill off Shirley, 8 minutes into the episode, 10 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, I don't like
and
it.
not only that, like I said, she's the only character that dies that like gets up and leaves and isn't in the rest of the episode anymore. She's just gone. That sucks.
It really sucks.
And even this episode kind of makes it clear that the characters dying and in which order they die is less of a meaningful thing than it was in the first episode. Why couldn't they just evolve? I don't know.
Yeah.
Shirley could have died.
Shirley
in that
could have been
montage at the
injured.
end, and the dean. And the dean could have been that big death in the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. This just feels like, okay, let's get Shirley out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Abed gives a speech to Hickey that I really like. Hickey says, "I punched about 1,000 hearts in my lifetime, and I've never missed." And Abed puts it up to him. Well, have you ever been a 3-foot monster in 2-foot grass going after something 7 foot tall? You got to take this seriously, like your son does.
Yeah.
I don't know. I deliver it. I love the kind of snarky, I respect the process of this game Abed that comes out throughout this episode. I think
great.
it's really special. I like Annie's line of, "I take a moment to mourn my friend before rifling through her belongings."
That's kind of how it is in games like that too. Like even like to the video games that are around like, like Skyrim or something like that, is sometimes, you just got to loot the body.
Abed goes to the other room to let the people remaining on the other side play a little bit. What is Hank's angle here? Is he still trying to hurt his...
Well, now he
heals.
Yeah.
He heals Britta. What's his angle?
For healing Britta?
Yeah.
She's in his party. He's got to get them to the tower to win. He knows he can't get there with a dead Britta.
Yeah. And the other people in the room are kind of villainizing him, Hank, because of their care for Hickey. But here is when he has a little moment to explain, like, what's, like, to everybody, like, sure, you get this. You see these all sad about not being invited to this party. But what about all of my life when he wasn't that?
Yeah.
That you can't just turn around. It doesn't work like that. And the Times Square joke is really funny. But I really like the stuff in this episode about that.
It's really good.
Like it. Flying
my
white
nightmare.
arachnids, sky spiders with eagle wings.
Nothing would scare me more than that.
The Dean, I love his dramatics. I love that he's the character more than the rest of them.
Yeah.
That says his dialogue in a way as if it's really happening, that really mimes the actions that are happening.
Well, he's bought in.
He's bought in because Jeff is his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get a hug or something later if he keeps up like this. And he's just here to have a good time. The Dean is a fun hang and deserves to be invited to stuff more often.
Yeah.
So he's like standing up to the sky spiders, but Hank knows a little bit more about the sky spiders. There's no need to be scared of them. He knows how to speak to them, and he shows the spiders that they're not a threat. It's good to have someone in your party that knows this kind of stuff and knows when you need to pick a fight and when you do not need to pick a fight.
Mm-hmm.
I love the moment here. You mentioned it earlier. Chang says, "You made that sky spider your bitch, yo," and puts his fist out for a fist pump. And Hank does it the exact same way that his dad did it to Britta earlier in the season, which I think is cool. So now it's just going to be a game of cat and mouse going back and forth. Not a lot to say about these, but it's really fun. These are the scenes that are really worth going and paying attention to all the sounds, to the quick dialogue, to see what they see as they're playing the game. Really fun. They're just trying to fight who's going to win first, but soon it's not going to become a who's going to get to the necromancer first. It's going to be how can we get the other father and son in this team back together.
Yeah.
But first we get the Hickey Hobgoblin thing.
Which
they
is
need to
great.
get some they need to get some information out of a hobgoblin. What is Hickey trying to... They're trying to learn where the necromancer is. And they might have this information, right? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's great because, like, Hickey's like, all right, you know what? I'm not the myself that I know, but here's what I know I can do.
I can interrogate someone. And it's really fun to watch both of them, Abed and Hickey. Like, obviously, Abed is the showier performance here, so he's who you pay attention to. But it's fun to watch both of them invest in this, especially Hickey, who has to do a little bit more, like, letting his logic part of his brain step to the side to do something like this.
Yeah.
I think it's really fun.
It's awesome.
The way that Hickey gets the two characters that Abed is playing to pit against each other to build this web of lies about the wedding and one's feelings for the other's wife, and I don't know. It's great. I love Hickey's line, "Oh, that famous goblin loyalty. I could never put a wedge between you and some guy you work with."
He really escalates it, like, even just from, like, going from, oh, well, he didn't like the food. Oh, he didn't like your toast. Oh, well, he doesn't approve of your relationship. Oh, well, she's the one who you really want to be with.
Yeah.
It's great.
It works. I don't know why being cucked like this by some dude makes him give information away, but he does. Now we get a really fun sequence. How do you feel about David Cross singing the song?
I
do you
love
think
it.
It's cool?
I think it's hilarious.
I almost feel like it's a little bit out of place. And let me tell you why. Because Hank's not having fun. He was trying to quit just a few moments ago. He's invested in the game, but he doesn't know these people. I still don't think he's, like, actively having fun. He's just, like, trying to get to the next point.
When
it
the
feels a little out of
dean
character.
went for the sky spiders, that was his moment. He's like, no, they're more afraid of us than we are of them. Noble sky spider. You know, like, he's
just showing off. Okay.
They're in the world now.
It becomes the perfect soundtrack for the Dean story that we're about to get here. What does Abed tell them there? That they're starting to get closer to the
sky
tower?
spiders have taken them as long as they are, like, their very complex religion allows.
I just saw the Brutalitops Bridge. We're getting the moment where the Dean is writing a letter to his father. How many hours since I've seen you? How many real hours since I've gone pee? I just love it. We're learning more about the two halves of a sword that father and son share in this, and what maybe could happen if they both rub it off. They both rub themselves off at the same time.
I send a word on wings of sparrows.
And I love that he literally tears off a part of it, because you see that in movies all the time.
Yeah.
But that he genuinely tears off a piece of his real world shirt to give to Abed, and he's been doing this for a while. It's not the first time.
Yeah, the
Abed
shirt
says
deteriorating
the odds
is so
are near
funny.
the way this is shot, as Abed, like, shaking his head no, Abed says the odds are nearly impossible, but that's good enough for me. And then Abed, like, sighs, rolls the dice, it's a no, and he throws one of, like, 20 letters away. This is so dirty. This is so gay. If they both rub their halves of the sword at the same time, twin beacons of light will reveal our locations. So if they rub until they come, they can see each other.
You know,
He has that, like, old season 1 headshot of Jeff that he just has on him, and he unfolds looking at his father while he rubs. The way that he acts out the motion. Jim Rash is just the best.
it's so good. It's outrageous that they can do this, but it works. It's hilarious.
And it's one of those moments that I don't know. Did we feel lesser about this episode when it came out just because of how good the first one was and how impossible it is to match that?
Maybe,
Because
I think this is
that
great.
moment shines as much as anything it does in the first episode. I like the first episode better. I do think it's a better episode, but they still had some stuff to squeeze out of the D&D idea, and they do a lot of cool stuff with it in this episode. It's up there. I haven't, man, I don't know what my top 5 bottom whatever of the season is going to shake out
Like, is
to be,
this my
because there's
favorite
some
of
real
the season, or is
competition.
it my number 3?
Wow.
Like, I have no idea. It could be anywhere in there.
Exactly.
And we're not done yet. We still have more episodes that I like. At least one.
Yeah, G.I. Jeff,
I like G.I. Jeff.
I'm ready to revisit it, but I don't have a lot of love for G.I. Joe, so we'll see where that goes. And then the 2-part season finale is not one of my favorites, but maybe I'll change my mind. I certainly enjoyed this one even more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
So Abed rolls another time for the letter and is so sure that it's going to come up no that he almost doesn't even look. And then he double takes and realizes that, yes, a sparrow lands on Riggs Die Hard's shoulder.
Zach.
And I like at this point, yeah.
There's something I wanted to talk about when we were recording this episode.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is a TikTok account that I watch their video
God.
every day.
Okay.
And it's called Roll for Sandwich. And it's where this guy, he's like, hello, D&D TikTok and beyond. And he literally has like a sheet with different options and he rolls a different sided die for each item on
That's
the
funny.
sandwich. And like sometimes they're really good and sometimes he gets like
They're really bad.
anchovies and marshmallow puff.
Yeah.
Like it can be, but he like eats it every time. But it's really entertaining. And I always think
That's really
D&D.
funny.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
It's really cute. So like people like send him in different die to use and like stuff like that. It's really cool.
So I like the idea that so Jeff finally gets a note and all it says is I rub my sword, right? So I like that the dean has written like 20 letters to Jeff, a lot of them like really deep and emotional and long, and after he's done so many of them, he's like, just say the thing.
Yeah.
And he keeps sending them and it finally gets through and all he has to say is I rub my sword's hilt to Abed, and all of a sudden it happens. The beam of light, it's happening. Of course the dean is rubbing his sword at the same time. He always is.
He always is.
I like the visual of the light beams as they find each other. So it's not going to be the race to finish that they thought it was. They don't have any chance to do this separate from each other. The groups are going to meet back up.
Which
But it
which
might turn
shows
into a
how
fight
well
between the two
Abed has
groups.
orchestrated this whole thing, where even when they thought Abed's not in control, this is going south, Abed always had them getting back there at the same time and doing this. He knows what's going on.
The plan was always for groups to separate and have a reason to get back together.
Mm-hmm.
David Cross, one of his funniest moments, and it's a lot of low-key funny stuff that he gets to do instead of his usual over-the-top stuff, when he's picking for the popcorn in his teeth in the middle of a really serious speech. That's another thing I'm sure that's true of playing D&D. You're like giving a real, we're about to go into battle, but you've got like the Mountain Dew burps.
Yeah. Do the do.
So the groups are back together, or about to be back together, and it's looking like a fight. A war is brewing, and we're about to get a really good, really epic Dungeons & Dragons battle sequence that they do.
I think this is so smart. It's so funny. It like, because when you have these things when you're playing these games, it's all make-believe, it's all pretend, but you take it so seriously. And it's really
Yeah, like
funny
right
to see
there.
it acted out, like, because normally when you play the game, one person
Mm-hmm.
says something, you roll. Okay, that worked. The next, but this, they're eliminating that aspect of it because they're taking it so seriously. They're in the world now. While Abed is still frantically rolling the dice to see what hits, what doesn't. It's so funny.
And
it's
like
so
I'm
well
sure
edited.
in real life when you're playing, like you, maybe not over a father and son dynamic like this, but you genuinely start to get mad at the other
Yeah.
people for doing certain things. I like here, Hank says something bad about Hickey while he's hyping up his team, and Chang just looks to the side and spits on the floor when he mentions Hickey. I think this is a really funny moment.
It's amazing.
I'm really glad that Chang is a part of this episode too.
Yeah. Rise, brave, sweet Dingleberry. Rise.
So they arrive at the tower, both parties, and it's gonna be they're gonna fight each other to get to the end first instead of working together like they should. But all Joseph Gordon wants is to hug his father.
This scene's incredible. A little bit of trash talk. Excuse me. Those Mountain Dew burps.
But Joseph Gordon's not willing to fight. He's just there to hug his father.
The
Hickey
shirt.
thinks it's a trap, but that's all it is. And because they're about to fight battle with each other, Jeff kills his own son. Right? Is that
Yeah.
what happens? He holds his sword out and he kills his own son. It's a dramatic moment. There's troll sounds going around. All he wants to do is kill his father, But all he wants to do is that was a Freudian slip. All he wants to do is hug his father. Sorry, communities. All he wants to do, and that's all we want is to rub hilts and kilts at the same time as Daddy.
Yeah.
But he won't let us. Our beams of light just never meet.
We've written so many letters.
All the Dean wants is to hug Jeff, but it's a battle. These there's no rejoining as a group between these two parties. The ultimate deed has been done. Father kills son, and boy does Jim Rash just sell it, grabbing one little hug before he splatters on the floor. Hawk, worth
it.
Son Slayer. And then the fight really begins versus each other.
Yeah.
Not a lot to say about this, but it's a really, really great sequence. Kind of like the pile of bullets sequence.
Yeah.
Where it's just so many non sequiturs happening so fast, and a bunch of them are really funny. There's no following the game at this point.
I take the kid and I pop him.
But you can see that now they understand it. Is that what Hickey says?
Yeah.
You can see that now they understand the game. The study group especially. They're using their weapons. They're using their spells very fast. It's like a big fight scene in a Lord of the Rings thing where like 30 things are happening at once.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow them all. I hold Britta's face in a puddle. Annie holds her huge cock and swings it around everybody.
Cleave.
And before too long, Dingleberry smash! Before too long, the character sheets start dropping. The characters start dying. They start killing each other. They can only fight for so long before first Jeff is killed, the Sun Slayer. Oh, I wanted to point out a goof earlier.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I thought about it when I was watching it. Earlier when they're holding their character sheets and they're talking about, it's when father and son already have the father and son ones before they switch.
Yeah.
Hickey is like, I've got Sir Riggs Die Hard, and you can see through the paper on the opposite side that he's holding like Hector the Well Endowed or something.
Oh, really?
He's holding the wrong character sheet. And then in the next shot, he's holding the right one.
Why?
Goof.
They
goofed it.
Seems like an easy thing to not up.
Maybe they like redid the shot later or something and he just grabbed one. I don't know. I feel like I could see them saying, Jonathan, you gotta hold the right
Gotta
paper.
hold.
Like, just
Why does it
CGI
matter?
it. Just CGI it. I'll punch you in the heart. Fibrosis down. Hector down. Chang crumbles to the ground. Dingleberry the Troll really made a go at it. He really made a lasting effort. And now we're to pretty much the end of the episode as it's left just Hank and Hickey not playing with each other, but playing against each other and not working together, but spending time together. And this is when this complicated father and son storyline starts to come to an even as complicated ending that's not really an ending. And I think it's just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of people didn't like the ending of this episode when it first aired because it didn't have a huggy ending. Mm-hmm. And they even said on the commentary that originally the script did have a huggy ending, and it was Jonathan Banks who was like, I'm not hugging my son, but in a way that like father and son relationships were really important to him because of his father and son relationships. Mm-hmm. And he was like, that's not how this would go. And I think this complicated ending that we got makes a lot more sense and
I think so too.
Is just as impactful. Because look, they're spending time together. They are having fun together. They're not going to be able to see things eye to eye. But also now they can't leave a room together because they're the same person. I don't know.
They also were probably relying on the game settling this for them. So when it doesn't end, they're like, wait, now we don't get this resolution. You promised us an ending. Now we're stuck.
Again, a great Abed speech explaining, I'm the dungeon master. I don't owe you anything. I just play the game. And I love how he says, if you spend an hour fighting about who's going to storm the castle outside of the castle, the necromancer leaves.
Yeah.
And he runs away. He sees you coming. And they're not willing. They need that conclusion. And we never get it. We don't know if Hickey goes to the birthday party or not. Honestly, I assume he probably doesn't, and that's okay. What's important is this time that father and son have spent together, and now they kind of have something that they could talk about in the future. Mm-hmm. And I think Jeff does a good job at the end of this episode using the study group to kind of explain to us the ending that we're getting. They leave the room quietly, and he explains, like, I don't think they can stand being in the same room together, but I also don't think they can stand being apart from each other, and now they can do this forever and avoid doing either. Abed's happy, they're happy, they all get to leave, they're happy, It's a nice moment. It's cute. It's actually an honestly cute and sweet ending.
I love
for
it.
an ending that's like the anti-huggy ending. And it still has a cute sitcom-y ending, even while keeping the complicated issues of the real life in it. And that's the end of the episode. I do love it.
I think it's great.
They found a way to twice tell a really complex story through a really complex game in an easily digestible sitcom format that also pushes what a sitcom episode can and should be.
My only issues with this episode are very minimal. I think it's great. The Aziz line,
Okay.
a couple of like the, I mean, really, that's about it. I like just
Shirley
everything else in
being
this episode. Yeah, and
so
Shirley,
short.
and it sucks that I consider that to be a minimal thing because it happens constantly in the show.
Well,
but in
it's
the scope
only
of the show,
minimal
it's great.
because what the episode fills the episode with is fun.
Yeah.
That you don't really think of. It's more like when you think about on the grand scheme of things of Yvette leaving the show in a handful of episodes and her being put to the wayside when she's one of the remaining original cast members left.
Exactly.
It's a little sad, but it's a great episode. The intag,
I think it's great.
Not a lot to say about the intag. It's not as off the wall crazy as the ones have been recently. Just a cute, wholesome bit of Abed in pajamas, still wanting to play Dungeon Master, so he plays Dungeons and Dragons Tea Party with Annie's stuffies. However, Annie coming out being all sleepy and saying, Abed, I can't sleep without my stuffies. What happened to Annie's Pretty Young? We try not to sexualize her. Because you know that half of the people that email in this podcast foam at the mouth when she says that.
I didn't even.
You didn't even think about it. Oh, but I did. I thought long and hard about it.
I was hoping for some more Hillary Rodham kitten action.
That's the end of the episode. We love it, don't we?
Yeah, this is a buy.
It's not the Dungeons and Dragons episode, but I would rather have done this follow-up than just about any other second episode. Okay, this is gonna get me in some hot water. I like second Dungeons and Dragons more than I like second Paintball. The 2-part season 2 finale Paintball. I like this better.
I like it more than I like the second part of that for sure. I think I like it more than the first part too.
The first part is really good. But I love this episode, and I think
it
doesn't get a bad rep, but I think it gets
It's
overlooked.
thought of as the lesser.
Well, yeah, and maybe it is, but that's only because the first one is one of the most daring episodes of sitcom television of all time.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't go anywhere but adjacent to that in the next one. It doesn't break any huge new ground, but it's so fun. It's great.
It's so much fun.
And let's talk about MVP. It's both really easy and kind of hard to pick because I'll go first because I want to give MVP. I want to give honorable mentions to like everybody because Abed's really, really, really great in the episode. I almost want to give it to Abed. I almost want to give it to Hickey even because I think Hickey's really great in this episode. But I think the best decision the episode makes is putting the Dean in it. He's the funniest part of the episode. Commits to all of it so hard. He gets to be more physical in his comedy than he often does. It's just great. Front to back, everything the Dean says is a hard laugh. It's the Dean for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think honorable mention to Hickey because he's great in it. Honorable mention to Abed. They're both awesome this whole episode, but the Dean steals the show for me.
Yeah.
It's great.
Look, Steven, we've been getting the hour and a half podcast down pat. I didn't think we were going to do it. I thought we were going to be here 2 hours today.
Yeah, me too.
This has been fun. I think we said a couple weeks ago, you know what? This was a good podcast. I think so. Was this one?
Yeah, this was great.
And that's it. We've done it.
We did it. We landed the plane.
Next week, we're coming back for the final 3 episodes of Season 5. Before we get into the last season of Community, before we do our last couple of roundtables, before we start to make some solid plans for what's going to come after we finish Community on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast, that all starts next week with the final 3 episodes of Season 5. It's G.I. Jeff. If you want to be a part of the episode, we would love for you to send us in your trivia, your MVP, and your favorite funny moment to can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, if you want to support the show even more, Patreon is where it's at. We've got 3 things that you can count on every week on Patreon. You Can't Disagree show is live every Thursday. A little bit of fun hangout, outrageous sometimes, with me and Steven hanging out over on the pre-show before we record this every week. You get early access to this show every week before anybody else gets to hear it. And you get Brokeback Bebop, a completely Patreon exclusive Cowboy Bebop rewatch podcast. So if you like what we do here, if you want to get shouted out on this show and get all kinds of perks alongside it, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Steven, I'm sure all the people that listen to our podcast to this point at the end of the show know it by heart, but where else can the people find us?
Well, if you get lucky and you roll higher than a 7 on a 20-sided die, you can come follow us over on Twitter over at You Can't Disapod. We're also over in the Shire of Instagram over at Can Disappoint Podcast. Mm-hmm. And then we're on Facebook and YouTube, and you can hit that subscribe button and double down, roll that bell to get the notifications over at the full name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. I did what I could there.
From inside the Dreamatorium, Black Lives Matter, children's lives that get gunned down in the middle of their school day matter. Absolutely nobody should legally be able to buy an assault rifle. The argument is always, well, the lawless will be lawless no matter what. But since when does that mean that the law shouldn't do absolutely everything it can to help? Of course bad things are still going to happen, but there is evidence to show that an assault rifle ban would help, and I think it should. No, you don't need an assault rifle to go hunting. You don't need an assault rifle to collect guns or to be an enthusiast when it comes to like target shooting and stuff. Yeah. I get why people think they're cool, and maybe some of those people would want one, but that's
you need to have one at your fucking house.
Yeah, nobody should be able to fire off that many bullets that easy. I don't know. That was a long-winded thing. I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And even while things are tough, a lot of hard stuff to think about lately, doing this and thinking about community, thinking about Steven, rubbing my hilt, thinking about Steven, and thinking about all the people that spend time with us every week, the people actually listen to these fun conversations that we get to have every week. It helps brighten my mentality a lot.
Yeah, me too, buddy. It's
all
a
right,
nice,
well, that's it.
Nice little look into the taint of something else.
All right, well, we've got plenty of taints to look into for the rest of our day, so we're gonna wrap this one up. This has been a lot of fun. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
I roll to end the podcast. No,
Fail.
I attempt to. Yeah, very much failed. Okay, well then I guess we just gotta keep it going then, because we can't end it yet. How about this weather?
Yeah, it sure is outside out there.
I got this car now. I like it. I attempt to kill myself to get out of this.
Success! Huzzah! Bye, everyone.
Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu.